American comics. Villain superhero model. I don't talk about morality. Chapter 16. At this moment, Dis was sitting in his bedroom. Because his parents were both businessmen, they were often on business trips, and he was the only one in the huge house. In the bedroom, Dis looked at the portrait of Gwen hanging on the wall with a gentle expression on his face. Ever since he saw Gwen for the first time, he fell deeply in love with this girl with short golden hair. So much so that he often visited Gwen's social accounts. Dis took out his mobile phone and clicked on Gwen's account again. His eyes changed from expectation to frustration, and then to rage. He threw the phone on the floor angrily. The screen of the phone was broken. This was the third phone he had broken this month. A photo was displayed on the broken screen. Gwen and Peter leaned close together, holding a bucket of chocolate-flavored Haagen-Dazs ice cream together. This is not fair. This is not fair. Dis's eyes were about to burst into fire. Peter, why does Gwen only have a special liking for you? Every time I walk by her, she doesn't even look at me. Dis held back his anger and picked up his phone. He immediately dialed a number. Soon the call was connected, and a thin man wearing a monocle appeared in it. His nose was quite sharp and his appearance was very distinctive. At first glance, it was very funny. Hey, Dis, my friend, what do you want to talk to me about? Oswald, there is indeed something I need your help with. Because of a madman who condoned crime, the crime rate in Gotham has only increased, and the Penguin is the product of the City of Sin. His real name is Oswald Cobbett. Because of his miserable childhood, he vowed to become the strongest man and the king above everyone else. But because of his physical defects, he suffered humiliation. In a gang fight, he was rescued by Dis's father. Now Oswald has become a well-known gang leader in Gotham. This is why Dis asked him for help. I like a girl, but that girl doesn't like me. Her heart is won by another man. Dis's eyes became more and more fierce. Oswald, I need you to help me kill him. As long as he dies, I will definitely get the girl's heart. If we have a wedding one day, I will invite you. After hearing this, the Penguin was silent for a second. Dis, my mother often told me that a woman will fall in love with a person in an instant, or she will never love him in this life, even if they usually share a bed. Oswald. Dis interrupted him. The tone was very tough. Oswald. It was my father who saved you. Without him, you would not be where you are today, so. Now it's time for you to repay. On the other side of the screen, although the Penguin was unhappy, he still nodded dangerously. Dis, my friend, I will repay this favor. Now tell me the name of that man. Dis's eyes lit up. His name is. Bang. With a thud, Dis's expression froze, and his head hit the computer desk. A large pool of blood flowed out, flowing onto the computer desk and onto the ground. Dis was dead and couldn't be deader. Peter put away the gun, and the system prompt sounded. You have punished the marked criminal and received 100 points. Hey, worthless thing. He had seen Dis's performance just now, and there was no psychological burden to kill him. He deserved to die. The Penguin on the other side of the screen was shocked. The person who was talking to him just now died alive at this moment. He was shocked. Who are you? You killed my friend. What? Oswald, you want to accompany him? Faced with the naked threat, the Penguin's anger was aroused. No matter what, he is a boss of the Gotham Underground organization. Being threatened by Peter like this, he naturally had to fight back. FXXK. You killed my friend, I will find you. I will sink you in the water and drown. Peter chuckled. You should be glad that I'm not in Gotham. The Penguin laughed in anger. Why? You want to come and kill me? Even Gordon can't do anything to me. Do you think you can touch me? I live in Gotham City, Villa 43, Chamlanka Street. There are 20 people guarding outside my house. Can you come and kill me? Hey, why don't you speak? After saying this, the Penguin found that there was no sound on the screen. He didn't seem to be satisfied with his scolding, and slammed the table angrily. However, Dis's death made him feel relieved. He was a grateful person. Since he owed a favor, he had to pay it back. But Dis was dead, so he didn't need to go to New York. He hasn't even established a foothold in Gotham yet. If he goes to New York now, he might offend the local forces. The risk is too great. The Penguin hung up the phone. Suddenly a gust of air blew into the room. He subconsciously looked at the window, but the window was closed. Strange. Ahem. Just then a voice sounded. Penguin looked over, and his whole body felt his scalp tingling. Excuse me, are you looking for me? Penguin's eyes widened. Wong Defa. The penguin subconsciously began to look for a gun. This was an unthinking reaction. Life from childhood to adulthood told him that only with a weapon in hand could he ensure his safety. He suddenly grabbed the pistol and pointed it at Peter's head. You, who are you? What conspiracy did you play? Don't treat me as an idiot. You can't have come to Gotham from New York in an instant. Facing the black muzzle of the gun, Peter didn't care. I seem to be surprised to see you here. Didn't you ask me to come over on the phone just now? In Peter's eyes, ordinary people without super abilities or special abilities are not threatening at all. Even if the penguin shoots, Peter has at least 3 ways to avoid it. The penguin is doubtful. There are indeed super abilities in this world. Superman and Homelander are the best proof, but he doesn't believe that the guy in front of him, who is dressed like the mafia of the last century, also has super abilities. Hey, don't be so arrogant, this must be a scam, you have been lying in ambush in my house from the beginning. Tell me, what is your purpose? Peter snorted. Whatever you think, you just need to understand one thing, you will see your brain soon. The penguin was furious. No one had dared to talk to him like this for a long time. Really? You seem to have forgotten one thing. I am the one holding the gun now. In the next second, I can blow your head off. Normally, Peter would not talk nonsense, but today he got $1 million, which made him in a good mood, and he even talked a lot more than usual. Peter walked in front of the penguin. I'll make a bet with you that there is no bullet in your gun. The penguin, who felt his authority was offended many times, couldn't bear it anymore at this moment. He pulled the trigger hard at Peter's head. There was only a click. Nothing happened. The penguin seemed to be struck by lightning, and swallowed nervously. How is this possible? I clearly remember that there were bullets in it, how could it be possible? This is unscientific. What? Are you dumbfounded? Peter said in a tough tone. He knocked the penguin to the ground with one punch. Can you be a gangster boss like this? You don't even know if there are bullets in your gun. What's the use of a gun in your hand? Answer me. Peter had taken out the magazine from the penguin's pistol when he entered the penguin's room just now, but because of the rabbit spell, the speed was too fast, so the penguin didn't notice it. Oswald fell to the ground, his pupils shrank into needles, and the whole person was almost unable to speak because of fear. But after all, he had experienced several death crises, so he quickly adjusted. If you want to live, you have to beg for mercy. He knelt directly in front of Peter. Sir, forgive me, I apologize to you. I'll lick your shoes. He crawled over and was about to stick out his tongue. Peter kicked him away. Now he finally understood how cool it was for Yan Shuangying to show off. At this moment, Peter has lost his patience. Convict Oswald of the word, guilty, has not been spoken yet. The system's voice sounded first. Side quest starts can be rejected. Villain superheroes can also have their own forces and form their own teams. Complete the mission and get special rewards. Villain superheroes are walking between light and darkness, and it is a bit redundant to form their own forces. Reject the mission and get special rewards. Peter. There are benefits on both sides, right? The penguin is still begging for mercy. Sir, you can do whatever you want. I still have a mother to support. Please let me go. Peter looked at the penguin. It's not impossible to leave your life. But you have to work for me. The penguin was overjoyed and knelt on the ground to thank Peter crazily. Normally I won't look for you. You still have the final say in your gang. 2 requirements. First, how you fight the gang is your own business. You can't hurt civilians. The penguin nodded repeatedly. I don't usually hurt civilians. Peter continued. Second, always pay attention to Gotham's every move, report to me once a month, and I will come to you when the time comes. The penguin quickly agreed. Don't worry, sir, I will never let you down. Peter hummed and threw a few bullets to the penguin. Oswald, load the bullets now and shoot at my head. What? The penguin doubted his ears. You heard it right, do what I said. The penguin neatly loaded the bullets into the magazine and then loaded it. As a gangster boss in Gotham, he didn't want to be controlled by others. This is what you said. You are looking for death. It has nothing to do with me. Go to hell. He shouted in his heart, and then pulled the trigger. Ka, ka, ka. Continuously pulling the trigger, but not even a bullet was fired. The passive skill of the bulletproof head takes effect. The penguin was completely dumbfounded. If he was still a little dissatisfied just now, he was terrified now. This man is so scary. All thoughts of resistance disappeared in this moment. When he reacted and wanted to compliment Peter. He was the only one left in the room. Scary. This man is the scariest person I have ever seen. The penguin's head was already oozing with sweat. He sat down on the ground in despair. Oswald the penguin sat on the ground, feeling terrified. The man wearing a coat and a mask, who looked like a member of the mafia from the last century, was definitely the most terrifying guy he had ever seen. Pistols and bullets were useless to him. And what was the matter with this weird speed? He disappeared in an instant. The dozen or so brothers outside couldn't find him at all. The penguin was completely desperate, and the more he thought about it, the more scared he became. This means that the other party can come to him at any time and kill him easily. When an enemy who is equally matched with you is temporarily in the upper hand, what you have to do is to surrender, and you may win by striking back. But when your opponent is a person who can destroy everything without any effort, what you have to do is to bow your head, even if you are a little flattering. The most important thing is to survive. At this moment, in the heart of the penguin, Peter is such a terrifying existence. In comparison, Batman, the emerging hero in Gotham, is simply Angel. At least you can survive if you are caught by him. It's only a matter of time before he is sent to prison and released. The calmed penguin couldn't help but feel annoyed. It's all because of you. Otherwise, how could I have provoked such a scary guy? At this moment, Peter's voice rang in the room. Who are you calling scary? The penguin shuddered as if he was stressed. In the blink of an eye, he saw Peter who had returned. Sir, why are you back again? Peter chuckled. I just released you, and now I regret it. As soon as these words came out, the stone in the penguin's heart floated up again. Dense sweat soaked his head again. He knew that if the other party wanted to kill him, he had no ability to resist. Even if he could survive today, what should he do tomorrow? Haha, don't be nervous, I'm just joking. Huh. The corner of the penguin's mouth twitched. This joke was not funny at all. He wiped the sweat from his head and forced a smile. He laughed dryly. You are such a humorous person. Peter's voice became serious, and he patted Penguin on the shoulder. Oswald, I know you. You are not to blame for your childhood misfortune. You have no choice but to take this path today. But it's different now. You can get everything you want by working for me. When necessary, you can ask me for help when you encounter problems that you can't solve. However, it's best not to do this unless necessary. My time is precious. Peter, who is well versed in the art of drawing cakes, said these words quite fluently. No matter whether it can be realized in the future, it is definitely right to draw the cake today. This is also a necessary means to increase Oswald's loyalty to himself. Deterrence alone is not enough, you must give some sweetness to make others willing to work for you. Don't ask him why he knows so much, just ask that he met such a boss in his previous life. People, after all, live like what they hate. Penguin was deeply moved when he heard Peter's words. People with a lot of suffering in their hearts need so much care and love to fill him up. The answer is, a little bit. Penguin couldn't control his emotions for a moment, and had an impulse to cry. He felt that the person in front of him didn't seem so scary. On the contrary, he should be a good person. He had offended him before, but he not only didn't kill him, but also accepted him as his younger brother. He had already left, but he came back to say this to me. He is really a good person. If it were me, if I had such a strong power, I would probably not be so tolerant to others. Penguin took a deep breath and said to Peter seriously. Sir, I, Oswald, will be your man from now on, at your disposal. This speech, like a knight's oath, showed his sincerity. Peter suddenly doubted himself. No. Are you pretending? Or do I really have the ability to fool people? Does Oswald have Stockholm Syndrome? It's outrageous. Peter smiled and continued. Work hard, with my protection, no one will bully you in the future. Unfortunately, I'm a little injured now, when I recover. He didn't continue, leaving Penguin with endless room for imagination. Penguin swallowed his saliva, his eyes flashed. Could it be that you are more powerful than Superman? Peter said lightly. Superman. It's nothing great, Oswald, open your horizons. If you only have this kind of knowledge, it will be difficult to entrust you with important tasks in the future. Penguin felt dizzy. In his worldview, Superman is undoubtedly the strongest existence. Could it be that the gentleman in front of him is more powerful than Superman? Yes. It's very possible. Superman will not be hurt if the bullet hits him. But the gentleman in front of him, the bullet can't hit him at all. So, he may be more powerful than Superman. What luck did I have today? I actually met such a big shot. Penguin suddenly felt that the future was bright. Your loyalty will bring you huge amounts of benefits in the future. Peter was about to leave after he finished speaking. He glanced and accidentally saw a gift box. Oswald, what is this? This is a locally brewed red wine, which is a few years old. I am going to give it to someone. Peter picked up the red wine gift box. This is your meeting gift. If there is nothing else, I will leave first. The penguin nodded quickly. It is my honor, sir. Peter disappeared in the next second, and a few minutes later Peter appeared at his home in Queens, New York. Uncle Ben and Aunt May had returned from outside at this moment. Originally, the family of three planned to have a sumptuous steak together, but George just came over and invited him again, so the dinner tonight will be at their house. Peter changed his clothes and was about to leave with the red wine gift box. The system prompt sounded in his ears. Complete the side quest. Get a special reward. You can choose one of the following 4 options. Strength strengthening, permanent. Endurance strengthening, permanent. Rabbit spell usage rights are upgraded, and will be permanently upgraded in 3 months. Gum fruit, attention. Choose the gum fruit. Based on the setting, you will not be afraid of the sea water. Unlock the hidden achievement, Oswald's loyalty. A person's misfortune stems from his childhood. Penguin is undoubtedly a demon who kills without blinking an eye, but you conquered him with your personal charm. Get reward, bull spell. Ox spell usage rights, 3 months. The bull spell can increase your endurance and strength exponentially. Even an ant with no power can become an elephant. Long-term task, collection of zodiac signs. I have nothing missing 2/12. Peter's eyes flashed. He didn't expect the reward this time to be so generous. First of all, he ruled out strength strengthening and endurance strengthening. Just before going to Gotham, he bought these 2 strengthening potions in the Points Mall. Otherwise, even if he had the rabbit spell, he couldn't run to Gotham in one breath. But now there is the Bull Talisman, which will give the holder constant power. Although it can only be used for 3 months, it is enough. Peter is confident that within 3 months, he can accumulate 200,000 points and redeem the Homelander template. As for the rubber fruit, the user's body toughness increases, the arm can be stretched several meters, and even if it is hit by a bullet, it can bounce back. And there is no sea stone in this world, and there is almost nothing that can restrain the devil fruit except seawater. But I always feel that this thing is not cost-effective. At this stage, the rabbit talisman is Peter's biggest help. Maybe if you miss this opportunity, you will never be able to get a permanent one. And Peter has a vague feeling that Homelander is very fast, and the speed of the rabbit talisman is also very fast. Homelander uses the rabbit talisman. Maybe there will be a 1+1 greater than 2 effect. I choose the rabbit talisman, permanent. The next second, the rabbit talisman hanging on someone else's neck disappeared and turned into dots of white light flowing into his body. Now he can use the rabbit talisman more easily. The bull talisman inexplicably appeared in Peter's hand. After getting his mood in order, Peter prepared to go to Gwen's house next door for dinner. The system prompt sounded again without warning. The popularity section is open. You have won the recognition of the public, from unknown to famous. The name of the Punisher is the proof of your success. Get 5,000 bonus points. Your accumulated points are 21,350. Please keep working hard. What an unexpected gain. The reason why Peter was so cowardly before was entirely because he felt that with his current strength, he didn't have the capital to waste. From the experience of playing games. Once you waste, it's easy to lose. But now, it seems that some large criminal groups can also be targeted. For example, Kingpin. Punishing the criminals under his command will definitely get a lot of points. Forget it, let's talk about the future later. Peter washed his face and went downstairs to knock on the door of his neighbor Gwen's house. Hey, Peter, you're late. Gwen had obviously been waiting at the door for a long time, otherwise she wouldn't have opened the door the moment it was knocked. Peter shook the red wine in his hand. Gotham specialty, I just went to Gotham. Gwen, let Peter in, get ready for dinner. Gwen's mother shouted at the door in the restaurant. I'm here. At this moment, George was complaining to Uncle Ben. Now the pressure from above is very high. Not only do we have to punish the guys who violate the law and make trouble, but we also have to catch the Punisher and Spider-Woman. God, how come New York suddenly has these two difficult guys? Ben, you don't know what kind of pressure I'm under now. While talking, they saw Peter and Gwen, and tacitly ended the topic. Sit down quickly. George smiled and said to Ben. You really have a good nephew. Just relying on excellent grades, he has obtained wealth that many people can't get in their lifetime. You are a great hero tonight. As the chief of the police station, George has much more experience and knowledge than ordinary people. He saw early on that Peter would be very successful in the future, which is why he did not object to Peter and Gwen getting close. But he never expected that this kid could actually get $1 million in high school with excellent grades. Peter smiled slightly, and his attention was all on the things in front of him. A steamed sea bass, with a lemon on the fish head and a small piece of bread on the side. Oh my God! Who is your delicacy? The degree of viciousness is second only to the 9-turn large intestine. Isn't the fish stewed in an iron pot delicious? George fell into sorrow again after a brief joy. Recently, he has been tortured by the Punisher and Spider-Woman. These two guys are simply demons. It would be great if all young people wanted to be like Peter and Gwen. To be fair, if George was an ordinary person, she would not hate the Punisher and Spider-Woman. It's just that the butt determines the head. He is the chief of the New York Police Department, and someone above is constantly putting pressure on him. I really hope that Punisher and Spider-Woman go to other cities to do some activities. Such self-righteous guys shouldn't exist in the world. Every time Gwen heard George say this, she would always look a little disappointed. As the daughter of the police chief, he just hopes that his father can work less hard. If she catches one more person, her father will have less hardship. Gwen's expression is very subtle, but it can't escape Peter's eyes. He exhaled and said, Uncle George, although their appearance is not in line with the law, it cannot be denied that the crime rate in New York has dropped a lot now. Before criminals do bad things, they should consider whether there will be a gun on their heads later. George looked at Peter in surprise. For a long time in the past, he had always expected Peter to become a policeman. After all, he is the chief. If Peter chooses this path, he can provide him with huge amounts of help. So George often talks about these topics with Peter, but Peter has never been interested. What happened today? George shook his head. No, Peter, you don't understand the situation here. That Punisher. He's too crazy. His methods are simply outrageous. Just yesterday, he tortured the Rhino to death in front of me. Too extreme. If he was more gentle, like Batman, there would be less controversy in public opinion. Like Batman. Peter shook his head and did not argue with George about this matter. Then, Uncle George, what is your attitude towards Spider-Woman? She is gentle and will not execute criminals. At most, she will hang the criminals with cobwebs. Perhaps the New York police can consider cooperating with Spider-Woman. After all, it is better to let super ability people deal with those super ability criminals. Just like the Rhino, the police can't hurt him even if they empty the magazine. Only super ability people can deal with super ability people. Peter's words made George silent. He really didn't think about the police cooperating with super ability people. However, he really didn't like this guy who despised the law. Peter, you seem to be optimistic about Spider-Woman. I'm her fan. Peter answered without hesitation. Hearing this, Gwen could no longer control her smile. Dinner was over. Peter and Gwen were chatting on the rooftop. The lights of New York were bright at night. In some relatively safe areas, there were a lot of cars and people on the road. The joyful atmosphere brought vitality to the city. Unfortunately, there were not many such safe areas. Ha ha ha, Peter, I have never seen my father look embarrassed. By the way, do you like Spider-Woman so much? If I say I like you, will you be unhappy? After all, it is a taboo to praise another girl in front of a girl. Don't worry, Peter, I'm not jealous. I'm also her fan. Gwen was extremely excited at the moment. Who is she? She is Spider-Woman. Peter boldly admitted that he liked Spider-Woman. Didn't he just admit that he liked her? It really made her happy and her legs trembled. Peter turned around and looked at Gwen. They were so close that their breaths could spray on each other's faces. Looking at the blonde girl in front of him, she became visibly tired after becoming a superhero. This made him feel distressed. Gwen, I think there is nothing wrong with helping others. If everyone can help others, then everyone will live in a happy society. But the premise of helping others is to live a good life. If a person lives in poverty, then he doesn't need to do charity. Peter. Gwen looked into Peter's eyes and chewed his words over and over in her heart. It felt like Peter seemed to have the ability to see through people's hearts. The life of a superhero really made her feel tired. Too tired. The schoolwork was heavy, and she would take the college entrance examination next year. She had to be a superhero every night. It was really hard. Although she was smart, she was much inferior to Peter. For example, the web shooters, she couldn't figure it out no matter how hard she tried. Perhaps because the moonlight is so beautiful, the cold wind at night makes the temperature between the two people continue to rise. With the bold talisman, Peter's figure became more upright. His shoulders were broad, his waist was narrow, and his muscle lines were more obvious. Gwen also noticed this. Peter, what are you doing recently? How come I'm training so hard that I can even participate in the Mr. Bodybuilding competition? Peter smiled slightly, lifted his clothes, and revealed his full abdominal muscles. Ah. Peter, what are you doing? Gwen quickly looked away, but still glanced at him intentionally or unintentionally. Her cheeks instantly turned red. Don't pretend, Gwen, you obviously want to see it, and even want to come up and touch it. Peter wanted to laugh when he saw Gwen's shy look. He was also willing to tease Gwen from time to time, even if it was to spice up her superhero life. Peter, you look like a gangster who wants girls' phone numbers outside the school. Nonsense, I'm much more handsome than them. The two quarreled as usual, but a different emotion rose in their hearts. For Gwen, this ambiguous relationship with Peter made her quite happy, just like the mutual testing between the male and female protagonists before they officially get together in a TV series. But her personality is more inclined to play straight. I like you, and I will express my feelings to you. The reason why she did not express her love for Peter is because of her identity as Spider-Woman. Although Peter said that he was a fan of Spider-Woman, what if he didn't want to be with such a weirdo in his heart? What if Spider-Woman brings danger to Peter? Peter is just an ordinary person and can't deal with danger. Gwen was a little distressed, and Peter reached out and hugged her arm. Okay, don't think so much. Let's go, there's still dessert to eat. By the way, who made that lemon sea bass? Hee, it's delicious, right? I made it. No wonder it tastes so bad. If you don't know, you would think you are eating Westlake vinegar fish. I can use it for several hours, and you actually said it tastes bad. I'll let you taste my cooking skills when I have time another day. Have you heard of fish stewed in an iron pot? The two sang and made noises from the rooftop back to the living room. In the blink of an eye, a month has passed. During this month, the relationship between the two has improved a lot. Because they are both adults, their relationship is not as pure as when they were young. Intentional or unintentional physical contact indicates that their relationship will undergo a qualitative change in the future. Saturday morning. Peter's high school grades are very good, and his physics teacher intends to cultivate him into the path of physics. So he wrote a letter to Otto Octavian of Osborne Enterprises. He hopes to let his students visit his experiments. In this way, Peter's knowledge of physics will increase. Originally, Peter was going to refuse. But after hearing the name Otto Octavian, he hesitated. Maybe this name makes people feel unfamiliar, but his other name is definitely well-known, even infamous. Dr. Octopus. A nearly crazy villain. A guy who was brainwashed by the machine he invented. Maybe he can be stopped. Peter left home early in the morning and took a taxi to Osborne Company. He can use the rabbit charm, but there is no need. When it is not necessary, he prefers to act as Peter Parker. Enter Osborne Company. Because of the appointment, the receptionist showed him the floor where Dr. Otto was. Peter entered the elevator, and he was the only one inside. Just as the elevator door was about to close, a voice sounded. Please wait a moment. Then a pair of pale hands blocked the door that was about to close. Peter was slightly stunned. The person who came in was none other than the Green Goblin who attacked various schools in New York some time ago. But at this moment, he should be Norman Osborn, who has temporarily regained consciousness. This billionaire boss was so thin that his suit was empty. There was no flesh on his face, as if there was only a layer of skin on his cheeks. He looked at Osborn, and Osborn looked at him. Then he was slightly stunned. Peter. It's me, Mr. Osborn. I didn't expect you to remember me. Norman Osborn laughed. I definitely remember. You and Harry were classmates in elementary school. You used to have a good relationship and often came to my house to play. I even made apple pie for you. You and Harry haven't seen each other for a long time, right? Peter nodded. Since he transferred to another school in the 3rd grade of elementary school, we haven't been in touch since then. After all, we didn't have our own mobile phones at that time. Norman Osborn laughed. He should be back in a few months, and you can meet then. Peter, let's add a contact number, and I'll call you when he comes back. Peter was a little surprised, but didn't refuse. Although Green Goblin did all kinds of bad things, Norman Osborn was absolutely nothing to say. He was engaged in research in biological sciences and in the medical field. He also spent money to build schools and treated his subordinates and juniors very well. If it weren't for the family's inherited disease, he wouldn't have become like this. It's a pity. Peter didn't have a horse charm, otherwise he would definitely be able to cure him. The moment he was cured was the moment when Green Goblin's personality ended. It's great. Osborn sighed sincerely. What? Peter didn't understand what he meant. Osborn looked at him and smiled and said, it's great to be young. You won't feel tired even if you don't sleep all night. Cherish your time now. Youth is priceless, and health is priceless. By the way, what are you doing here? Is it a visit arranged by the school? No, it's not. Peter shook his head. I'm looking for Dr. Otto Octavian. The teacher asked me to learn physics from him. Is that so? I'll go with you. With my company, he will pay more attention to you. After all, I'm his sponsor. Peter nodded and didn't refuse. He couldn't help but sigh again in his heart. I remember that when he watched the movie in his previous life, his feelings for this character were very complicated. To say that he is bad, it seems that he is not completely bad. After all, it is the Green Goblin personality that leads him to do evil. To say that he is good, how can a good person throw a bomb into a crowd? It seems that death is his best salvation. Otherwise, there will only be the torture of two personalities entangled with each other. At this moment, the system's voice suddenly echoed in his ears. The polite entrepreneur in front of him has a demonic personality behind his back. A new task is started, punish Green Goblin. This task has two meanings. 1. Kill Norman Osborn, and the task is completed. 2. Kill the Green Goblin personality in Norman Osborn. No matter which ending you achieve, you will get points reward. Reward points are 20,000 points. Attention! Schizophrenia patients cannot be completely cured. Even if Green Goblin is killed, he may be reborn. Good luck. Peter scratched his head. Two thoughts intertwined, and he couldn't decide for a while. Kill or not? If he killed, Peter felt a little guilty, especially at this moment when Osborn was so enthusiastic about him. If he didn't kill, Green Goblin might be resurrected. In his previous life, Peter had seen many movies about Spider-Man. Because of the long interval, some plots have been forgotten. But one scene is particularly memorable. Aunt May of the third-generation Spider-Man was killed by Green Goblin. Keeping him is always a time bomb. There is a risk of explosion at any time. Peter looked at Osborn, who was smiling beside him, and decided to give him the power of choice. 10 days. If Osborn does not continue to make trouble within 10 days, then find a way to get rid of the Green Goblin in his body. If he kills someone, then kill him and leave no future trouble. The elevator door opened. Osborn took Peter out of the elevator. As soon as he got out of the elevator, he saw Otto Octavian, who was sturdy and had a little baby fat on his face. Osborne. Otto was stunned for a moment, obviously surprised by Osborne's arrival. This is the future Nobel Prize winner. Osborne said humorously. I'm not doing this for the prize. But your research can make a lot of money for the company. After a few polite compliments, Otto's eyes moved to Peter. This is. Oh. Let me introduce him. He's Peter, a high school student with pretty good grades. Peter took the initiative to shake hands. Hello, Mr. Otto. The two held hands together. I know why you're here, but I really don't want to waste time on high school students. But Osborne is my sponsor, and your physics teacher is my classmate. So, it's an honor, Mr. Parker. You two chat first. Osborne felt a little unwell. It seemed that another of him, the personality of Green Goblin, was about to come out. Osborne hurriedly left Otto's office. Otto looked at Peter and said with the attitude of an elder. I heard from your physics teacher that you are very smart. But I want to tell you that having a good mind is useless. You must work hard to improve yourself. Intelligence is not a privilege, but an ability. You should use it to benefit mankind. Peter nodded. He agreed with this view. Although he had killed many people recently and even accumulated 20,000 points, the purpose of doing all this was to make the world a better place. He couldn't help but sigh when he thought of this. It's a pity that someone like Dr. Otto eventually became a big villain. Peter wanted to stop it and do something to change this ending. But the time interval was too long. After all, he had been in this world for 18 years, and his memory had long become blurred. He only remembered that Otto was controlled by his mechanical tentacles. But the specific details had long been forgotten. Otto, lunch is ready. Suddenly, a lady came over. Otto smiled and introduced. Peter, this is my wife, Rose. This is Peter. I know, the smart one, the one who won a million scholarship. Rose smiled warmly. Come on kid, your future will definitely surpass Otto. Otto spread his hands. I also received a scholarship, although it was only $500. By the way, is Stark crazy? He actually gave so much money to charity. Peter looked at Rose on the side and couldn't help wondering. In the plot of the first-generation Spider-Man, did Dr. Octopus have a wife? If I had known that I would travel through time. I should have engraved all the plots in my mind, otherwise I wouldn't be like now, with only a vague understanding of the plot. Soon Peter's attention was attracted by the huge amounts of machines in the lab. Otto introduced. Isn't it shocking? This is the machine that completes and maintains nuclear integrate. You can also think of it as controlled nuclear fusion. Peter walked towards the machine. You use the harmonic frequency of atoms, which is actually the resonant frequency, to enhance the effect of integrate and generate powerful energy, endless energy. Otto couldn't help but look up to Peter. She thought Peter was a student with good grades, but she didn't expect him to be a genius. The physics knowledge involved in this research is far beyond what high school students can involve. And Peter actually understands it and can even explain the principle. Otto admired this young man very much at this moment. Peter, you really opened my eyes. When I was your age, my grades were also among the best, but I didn't know as much as you. You are too modest, Doctor. Otto looked at the machine in front of him. With a gleam of expectation in his eyes. As long as the experiment succeeds, we can master the constant energy, like the sun. Then, it will definitely benefit mankind. With endless energy, many wars will be avoided. Lunchtime came in a blink of an eye. Otto invited Peter to have lunch. Peter still felt that he should remind Otto. Such a person should not become a villain. Sorry, Doctor, do you think you can stabilize the nuclear reaction? Otherwise, what do you think I have been talking about for an hour and a half? This is my life's work. After saying this, Otto teased his wife again. This kid thinks I will blow up the whole of New York. Rose handed a cup of coffee to Peter. Smiling and saying, his research is impeccable. You will know when you come to watch the experiment tomorrow. She changed the subject and asked Peter. Let's talk about you, young man. Do you have a girlfriend? Is the topic changing so quickly? At the same time, Osborne's office. Enough. Enough. Norman Osborne was shirtless, and the body reflected in the mirror was pale and thin, quite sick. The expression on his face was sad. It was as if he was begging himself in the mirror. Please, please, we have harmed a lot of people, we can't go on. Shut up. The Green Goblin in the mirror had a gloomy expression. Are you willing to give up all this, reputation, wealth? You saw it just now, Peter's young and strong body. As long as you get the blood of Spider-Woman, you can recover. Think about Harry, think about your son, he is still so young, he has to live. Shut up. Osborn roared, almost collapsed, and when he was exhausted, the expression on his face was completely different from before, becoming hideous and terrifying. Since Spider-Woman won't come out, find a way to force her out. After that, he laughed almost crazy again. At the same time, on the other side of the city. At the door of the police station, there are two people entangled in cobwebs. Needless to say, this must be the work of Spider-Woman. This kind of thing has happened frequently in the past month. Every person caught by Spider-Woman is undoubtedly a criminal. At this moment, in a luxurious manner, a man in a white suit who looks extremely fat is sitting on a recliner in front of a villa. He holds a cigar between his fingers. This huge man with only 2% fat in his 350-pound heavy body is called Wilson Fisk. Compared with the ordinary name, another name can suppress the entire New York underworld. Kingpin. Unlike other gang leaders, he does not need so many men to protect him. Because of his childhood experience, he has learned fighting, all kinds of fighting, and his strength can reach the peak of ordinary humans. At least, it is not difficult for him to break a concrete wall with one punch. Kingpin smokes a cigar while looking at the photos on his mobile phone. That is his deceased wife and daughter. Resurrection from the dead is unrealistic, but parallel time and space are very scientific. He has been working with scientists for many years, with the goal of opening the door to parallel time and space. By then, he will definitely see his wife and daughter again. Just as Jin Bing was daydreaming, a subordinate hurried over. Jin Bing. Our business has been destroyed again. It's the Punisher and Spider-Woman who are making trouble. With them, our business has suffered a lot of losses. Be patient. As the king of the underworld, Jin Bing will not easily reveal his emotions. I have already thought about how to deal with them. As soon as the voice fell, huge amounts of wind and waves swept down from the sky, blowing waves on the lawn of the entire manor. Huge amounts of machines turned and roared. A man wearing a bird head mask landed on the lawn. He took off the mask, revealing a gloomy face of a middle-aged man. Jin Bing nodded slightly. Let me introduce you, this is Mr. Adrian Toombs, a former electrical engineer. But I think he prefers you to call him by his new name. Vulture. Adrian Toombs. He was originally just an electrical engineer. He had a dream of flight since he was a child. For this reason, he conducted countless experiments, but each experiment consumed huge amounts of money, and soon his capital chain was broken. Until a businessman appeared to invest in his experiment. Not long after, Adrian finally made an armor that could fly. Just when he wanted to share this good news with the businessman who invested in him. But he found that the other party had taken his scientific research results for himself and sold them to certain countries as military weapons. Adrian didn't want his dream to be built on the pain of war, and the angry businessman reported Adrian for treason, and then he was put in prison. But the businessman didn't find the flight mecha developed by Adrian. It turned out that Adrian had taken the mecha into prison a long time ago. This mecha not only allows Adrian to fly, but also strengthens his endurance, strength, speed, and reaction ability, turning him into a Superman. With this set of equipment, he also successfully escaped from prison, and the businessman who framed him was also cruelly tortured to death by him. After that, he used this equipment to do several horrific secret crushes, and many people died in his hands. Yes, Adrian's temperament changed drastically, and he was addicted to crime and the pleasure of revenge on society. Perhaps Adrian, who couldn't bear to use his scientific research results for war, died the moment he entered prison. And the one who survived was Vulture. Shortly after he was released from prison, Vulture, the king of crime in New York, found him and provided money to upgrade Adrian's equipment. The requirement was to help Kingpin solve a difficult problem. At this moment, Kingpin needed him. The above partly quoted the comic setting. Mr. Adrian. Kingpin said. Have a good rest, tomorrow may be your final battle with Spider-Woman and Punisher. Vulture's gloomy eyes swept over Kingpin. Don't worry, I've seen their videos. A guy who can only swing in the sky, and a guy who can't fly. Fighting with me, they can't even hit me. Don't forget our agreement, Kingpin. If you can't keep your promise, I can't promise to do something to hurt you. Faced with Vulture's threat, King didn't care, but smiled and said, don't worry, as long as you solve them, I will build the best mechanical laboratory in the world for you, and I will also buy weapons produced by Stark Industries to load on your mecha. But the prerequisite is to solve them. Queens, New York. Peter, who came back from Osborne Company, was watching TV with a big bucket of Häagen-Dazs. If you have money, you must enjoy life. The TV was broadcasting news about Tony Stark. The dignified host explained the whole incident. At present, Tony Stark, the boss of Stark Industries, is still missing. According to relevant experts, he is likely to have died in the hands of terrorists. Peter shrugged his shoulders. This news was expected by him. Tony was backstabbed by his subordinates and was set up. The last time they met, Peter installed a tracker on him. At present, Peter can be said to be the only one who knows Tony's exact location. But considering that Tony wants to become Iron Man, he did not rescue him. Or wait until Mark I is built before rescuing him. At this time, Peter suddenly noticed that the System Points Mall was refreshed. Since getting the Bull Talisman, strength potions and endurance potions can no longer be refreshed. Instead, there are flight potions and one-time precognition potions. As the name suggests, the flight potion gains 3 hours of flight ability after use. But the speed of flight is not fast, but for Peter who has the rabbit talisman, it doesn't matter. As for the precognition potion, the system introduction is a bit abstract. The user can see the ending of a certain character, and predict the character randomly. It could be himself, someone else, or anyone he meets on the road. To buy 2 potions, you need 200 points each. And the predictive potion can only be purchased once. At this moment in a cave somewhere in Afghanistan, Tony is hammering his armor. Clang, 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 clang. Until now he can't believe this fact. Because he listened to Obadiah Stani's advice and went to Afghanistan in person to test the power of missiles, he was caught by terrorists. And the weapons used by these terrorists actually came from his company. What's more desperate is that compared to more than 10 days ago, he has an extra device on his chest. Because there are many shrapnel in his body, Ethan, who was also imprisoned by terrorists, used an electromagnet to connect a car battery to make a simple device to save his life. Tony was unwilling to be imprisoned here for the rest of his life, so he was secretly building a set of armor. Superman, Homelander, where are you all? And that Punisher, it seems that we have met once before, can't you come and save me? Thinking back on the past few days, being beaten and force-fed with water, this place is simply hell. He couldn't wait to leave here. What's more terrible is that the battery in his chest relies on magnetic force to hang the shrapnel rushing to his internal organs. But this can only delay his death. What he needs now is surgery and treatment. He must leave here as soon as possible. Thinking of this, he began to swing the hammer in his hand again. Ding, 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 ding. The next morning, Peter was invited to participate in Dr. Otto's nuclear fusion experiment. This was an experiment that was doomed to fail. He went there because he wanted to change Otto's ending. He couldn't watch Otto turn into Dr. Octopus and then kill him mercilessly just to earn points. That's not Peter's character. In the morning, because of the importance of Otto's experiment, a large number of reporters gathered in the laboratory of Osborne Company. Unexpectedly, Norman Osborn was not present for such a major project. Almost everyone was there. Otto began to introduce. Welcome everyone to come here in your busy schedule. Today, you will witness the birth of a new energy source. A safe, permanent and sustainable energy source that will provide cheap electricity to everyone in the world. Now, let me introduce my assistant. As he said this, he took off a piece of white cloth, and 4 metal mechanical devices like octopus tentacles appeared in front of everyone. These 4 mechanical arms are designed to handle nuclear integrate. High temperature and magnetism have no effect on them. Otto fixed the 4 mechanical arms on his body. A neural sensor device like a spine was firmly attached to his back. The next second, the mechanical arms began to move according to Otto's wishes. As flexible as human arms. My brain controls these arms with artificial intelligence through neural links, and nano-neural wires directly transmit instructions. Let me use them to work in extremely dangerous situations. A reporter couldn't help but ask. Since these tentacles have artificial intelligence, aren't you worried that they will control you? Otto smiled slightly. That's a good question, so I developed a suppression chip to protect my brain. Soon, Otto began his research. Under the control of the mechanical arm, a weak fireball was born in the huge device in front of him. Then the fireball began to grow rapidly. The appearance of the fireball was reflected in Otto's sunglasses. He couldn't help but say, "The power of the sun is in my hands." Until this moment, everything was within Peter's expectations. Suddenly his brain buzzed. Spider telepathy. The next second, the nuclear reaction suddenly went out of control, and the magnetic force generated by the fireball suddenly increased. The necklaces on the necks of the reporters in the front row flew in. The whole laboratory was in chaos. Because the walls of the laboratory were blocked with iron sheets. At this moment, the iron sheets close to the wall were already creaking. Suddenly, with a bang, a piece of iron sheet flew towards the source of the nuclear reaction due to the strong magnetic force. Stop it! In the chaos, someone shouted at Otto. It's okay, this is a normal reaction, I can control it. Otto spent half his life on this experiment. Now letting him give up is equivalent to asking for half his life. As the reaction became more and more intense, a huge amount of iron sheet swept towards Rose. At this moment, the world seemed to stop. Peter, who had already changed his clothes, saved Rose as quickly as possible. This will definitely change the ending of Dr. Octopus. With the bond of his family, Otto should not be so easily controlled by the tentacles on his body. However, several pictures suddenly appeared in Peter's mind. This is the effect of the predictive potion, and he saw Rose's ending. In the picture, Otto, who was controlled by the tentacles, killed his wife in his sleep. Peter hugged Rose and turned off the power of the entire nuclear reactor. Then he took Rose to the UK as quickly as possible. The whole process took only a few seconds. On the way out of New York, he also saw Gwen fighting Vulture. Are you in such a hurry today? Peter cursed inwardly. Ms. Rose, stay here. Otto has been controlled by the mechanical arm he invented. If you want him to be safe, stay here. After that, Peter left a spider tracker on her. The next second he was on his way back to New York. The system prompt sound also sounded here. You have activated a new mission, save Otto Octavian. Although you are a villain superhero, you can easily kill criminals without any psychological burden, but this does not mean that you are a bad person. The mission reward is 10,000 points. One opportunity for ability upgrade. You have activated a new mission, Gwen's transformation. As a superhero, Gwen always adheres to the principle of not killing criminals, but she does not understand the truth that if you don't cut the grass at the root, it will grow again in the spring breeze. If the bad guys are not removed, they will only harm the good people. Please note that this mission is a long-term mission, and the activation of the mission reward begins. You have a chance to strengthen the spell. Note that the cow spell has a validity period of 3 months, and it will disappear once the time limit is reached even after strengthening. Do you still need to think about it? Strengthen the rabbit spell. At the moment when the rabbit spell was strengthened, Peter clearly felt that the things around him became slower. The cars driving on the highway seemed to be stationary. However, the sound of the system has not stopped. You have a new mission, save Gwen. Your girl is fighting the bad guys. She has just become a hero and lacks combat experience. She is overwhelmed by Vulture. Please kill Vulture and save Gwen. The mission reward is 20,000 points. Peter moved quickly. He began to calculate the existing points in his mind. After a month, he now has a total of 40,000 points. There are 20,000 points for the Green Goblin mission. There are 10,000 points for the Otto mission. There are 20,000 points for the Vulture mission. As long as these missions are completed, my points will be accumulated to 90,000. There is only 110,000 points away from buying the Homelander template. At the moment, another mechanical electronic sound rang in my ears. You have a new mission, save the new Iron Man. As your future long-term source of income, Tony Stark is like wool to you. Please save Tony before he dies. The mission reward is 20,000 points. I wish you success. Too much. Too much. The dense electronic sound resounded in Peter's ears. But he didn't have time to think about these, to calculate these. The most urgent thing is to rush to Gwen. 2 minutes ago. Outside Osborne Company, Norman Osborne was dressed neatly, with a crazy look in his eyes. At this moment, it didn't matter even if Otto blew up the entire company, because he found the trace of Spider-Woman. In another block in New York City. Gwen, wearing a black and white combat suit, was using cobweb to avoid Vulture's steel wings. As the boss of a big company, it was not difficult for Osborne to know this news. A little blood, just a little blood is enough. Green Goblin jumped down from a 100-meter-high building and landed steadily on the bat flight. At this moment, on a busy street, the surrounding buildings have been destroyed by Vulture's hard wings. Although Gwen is Spider-Man, she has put all her skill points on agility. When she encounters such a powerful opponent, she has no idea what to do for a while. Every time she approaches, the opponent's steel wings will sweep over. Compared to a month ago, Gwen feels that both her combat skills and the use of cobweb have improved. She had been trying to wrap the opponent with cobweb, but she had no idea how to do it, so she could only passively avoid Vulture's attack. The sound of the battle soon attracted the New York police, and there were even helicopters hovering in the sky. Although Vulture was not afraid, the battle also made him irritable. Suddenly he noticed a crying little girl falling down below. Hey, Spider-Woman, you have always been doing things to uphold justice, so when facing innocent passers-by, will you save them? A grenade was thrown from the air. No. Gwen shouted. Launch cobweb stuck to the grenade, and then swung it into the air. Like throwing a hammer. With a bang, a violent explosion sounded in the air. The aftermath of the explosion also made Gwen lose balance and was blown away. Good opportunity. The alloy wing swooped down from the sky, aiming at Gwen's stomach, to cut her in half. Gwen wanted to resist and struggle. But she couldn't find a leverage point at all. Goodbye, Spider-Woman. Gwen's heart was about to explode. The fear of death made her blue eyes lose their anxiety, and her pupils shrank to pinholes. File size. I haven't said goodbye to my father yet, and I haven't heard Peter's confession yet. For this kind of thing, boys should take the initiative. Gwen couldn't face the threat of death, and her eyes were tightly closed. However, the scene of being cut in half in her imagination did not appear. She felt a gust of wind and waves coming. The next second, she was held in someone's arms. Punisher. Gwen was shocked, and only realized that she was saved by the Punisher. Peter put Gwen down and looked at Vulture not far away with a stern look. You actually appeared together, haha, just saved me trouble. I can fly and stand in an invincible position, how can you defeat me? Gwen also reminded behind her. Be careful, he is very fast, and his wings are sharp. Peter took out a cigarette from his arms. Light it slowly. It's not to show off, but just to make my mind clearer. This is provided by the system. After taking a puff, the brain will react faster. Mainly because of the enhancement of the rabbit spell just now, Peter is a little uncomfortable. He took a puff and stomped out the cigarette. What a waste. Vulture stared at Peter with gloomy eyes. This will be the last puff of your life. The next second, he leaned down and tried to destroy everything with his steel wings. However, the moment he moved, Peter disappeared. From Peter's perspective, Vulture hardly moved. He was too slow. Bang, bang, bang. The three most critical connection points on the Vulture flight were destroyed by bullets. The next second, Vulture felt dizzy. When he reacted, he was being dragged into the sky by a huge force. Above the whole New York. Above the whole America. At this moment, he couldn't believe his eyes. You can actually fly. Are you surprised? Vulture tried to struggle, but the mecha on his body seemed to be scrapped. No response at all. The power device has been destroyed, and the wings that were just nimble just now are now a large piece of heavy scrap metal. Stop. Vulture's eyes were full of fear. At this moment, he felt the fear of death for the first time. Too high, it's too high here. The air around him became cold, and breathing became difficult. Vulture's body trembled uncontrollably due to fear and cold. He never thought that this day would come. Although he knew that there was Superman in the world, Superman only appeared a few times a year. There was Homelander in the world, but Homelander only attacked ordinary people with low combat effectiveness. So he never thought that besides these two, there was someone who could deal with him. He is Vulture, he can fly. Kingpin, he clearly said that the Punisher can't fly. Then how to explain it now? Listen to me, Punisher, I have money, I have a lot of money, as long as you let me go, all the money is yours. Let me go, even if you send me to jail, it doesn't matter. Listen, I want to go to jail, let me go. Suddenly Peter stopped. He had already reached his limit of flight. Although he was blessed by the bull spell, he was still just an ordinary person anyway. Flight was too high and made him physically uncomfortable. Vulture thought Peter was going to let him go. Thank God, thank you, I promise I will never mess with you again. I will never appear in front of you again. Yes, you have no chance. Peter finished speaking, and loosened his hand holding Vulture little by little. Vulture was sweating coldly, and his back was wet with sweat. No, 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 no. Punisher, you can't do this, you are a superhero, you can't do this. Peter sneered. Before dealing with me, didn't you know my style of doing things in advance? Superheroes have moral constraints, and I don't talk about morality. After speaking, Peter completely let go of his hand. Vulture, tied with heavy metal wings, fell like a meteor. Ah! He roared in the air, if he gave her a chance to start over. He would never mess with the Punisher. He was too fierce. He doesn't even look like a hero fighting crime. Maybe he just chose this path to kill people. With a bang, smoke and dust rose. A big hole was smashed in the cement road of Purple Rose Street. Various parts of the mechanical wings were scattered all over the ground. Vulture was lying on the ground, with the wings piercing him under him. This was his most proud invention, but now it became the cause of his death. The street was in chaos. Scattered pedestrians, armed policemen, and Gwen, who was a little confused. With a bang, Peter fell from the sky and looked at everything around him indifferently. Spider-Woman, you are too weak. Peter said coldly. Facing an enemy stronger than you, the only thing you have to do is run away. It was not intentional to attack Gwen, but it was too dangerous this time. If he hadn't arrived in time, Gwen would definitely be in danger of her life. Gwen didn't say anything. She wanted to refute, but she didn't know how to refute. Because the Punisher was right. Punisher, you shouldn't kill people. The law will punish these bad guys instead of lynching them. Peter chuckled. I will only follow the rules made by people who are stronger than me, otherwise my rules are the rules. He looked at Vulture's body. He is guilty. If I say he is not guilty, he is not guilty. He is not guilty. If I say he is guilty, he is guilty. Spider-Woman, do you think that fighting criminals on the street and hanging them in front of the police station is justice? You are still far from true justice. Not because of the mission, Peter wanted to communicate with Gwen a long time ago. Gwen, or most Spider-Man, is always too kind. It's okay to be kind to good people, but also to opponents. In the comics, Spider-Man has sent various enemies to prison many times. What is the result? The enemies appear again and again, and finally form a team with the purpose of dealing with him. Then what is the meaning of everything Spider-Man has done before? Missing a date, letting the family live in poverty, being criticized by the newspaper boss, life is so unsatisfactory, the purpose is to send the enemy to prison, and then wait for them to rest in prison for a while, and then do it all over again. What is the difference between this and that self-righteous guy in Gotham? No, not as good as him, at least Mr. Wayne is not short of money. So, killing the enemy is the best way to uphold justice. Gwen was confused for a moment after listening to the Punisher's words. Peter was about to leave. Suddenly, his figure moved at high speed and avoided the flying pumpkin bomb. Spider telepathy is really useful. Similarly, Gwen also sensed the danger. Looking up to the sky, a guy wearing a green demon mask was stepping on the flight device and floating in the air. Spider-Woman. You little bug, let me suck your blood. Gwen frowned behind the mask. Why are there so many monsters? She fired Cobweb and shot at Green Goblin, but was easily dodged. Green Goblin laughed wildly. Even if I blow you to pieces, I can still get your blood. Instantly, more than a dozen pumpkin bombs rolled down. Gwen quickly fired Cobweb and left. Fortunately, She was agile and dodged all the attacks. And several policemen were rescued by Peter. When they reacted, they were already more than 10 kilometers away. Before, Peter gave the right to choose to Osborne. If he didn't kill anyone within 10 days, Peter would find a way to get rid of the Green Goblin in his body. Now it seems that the Green Goblin has penetrated into his bones. It's impossible not to kill. Spider-Woman, you can't beat him. Peter said this in a cold tone. Gwen was very angry, she was very strong-willed, but at this moment, the Punisher was right. She was indeed no match for Green Goblin, although she had super strength, speed, and reaction ability. But without the web shooters given by Peter, she couldn't even swing in the air. After all, she was just a high school student. She had never learned to fight, and when facing a slightly stronger opponent, she didn't even know where to start. If your opponent can stay in the air with the help of the flight device, then use your cobweb to stick something and hit his flight device. Definitely, I don't need to go through so much trouble to deal with him. You have nothing to do here. Stay away, don't make trouble for me. Peter's voice was very calm from beginning to end, and with the calmness, there was indifference. Green Goblin was extremely angry. Just as he was about to get Spider-Woman's blood, a Punisher came to mess with him. Peter didn't say much. The figure suddenly soared into the air, so fast that it even left a mock ring on the ground. The next second, Green Goblin felt his figure shake, and before he could react, he was thrown into the air. Fast. Too fast. There was no way to take any countermeasures. Without a foothold in the air, Green Goblin could not control himself at all. The bat flyer under his feet had been broken into two halves by Peter. Before Green Goblin landed, Peter instantly appeared above him. Without giving him a chance to react, he stepped hard on him. Bang! Green Goblin fell to the ground. Even with the protection of the armor, he was broken in many places all over his body. Because of the injection of serum, the injury will heal automatically in a few days. But Peter did not intend to give him a chance to recover. Even if he has a physical fitness far beyond that of ordinary people, he will die if the bullet hits his brain. At this moment, Gwen, who was standing aside, was stunned. She stared blankly at everything in front of her. That's it. It's over. Solved so quickly. It only took 1 or 2 minutes after the Punisher appeared. He solved Vulture and Green Goblin, two terrifying guys with amazing combat power. There is no harm without comparison. Gwen felt that she was like a newborn baby in front of the Punisher. Then Peter walked in front of Green Goblin, looked down at him, and then took out a pistol from behind. Pointed at Green Goblin's head. Even if Osborn's evil personality was killed, there was no guarantee when it would appear again. So, the best solution is to shoot him. Gwen couldn't believe that the Punisher actually planned to kill Green Goblin in public. This was in great conflict with her philosophy. No, you can't do this. Gwen stood in front of Green Goblin. What's wrong? Peter said indifferently. You can't kill him. You should hand him over to the law. Believe me, the Punisher. The law will punish him. If everyone doesn't follow the law, the world will be destroyed. Influenced by her father, Gwen insisted that all criminals should be handed over to the law. Peter silently lit a cigarette. Although it was troublesome, it didn't matter. A month ago, Peter was still afraid of Green Goblin. At this moment, he was no longer a threat. People can't teach people, but things can teach people. If you want Gwen's attitude to change, you must let her experience regret once. Everyone, whether a hero or an ordinary person, has a rule in their hearts that cannot be crossed. But this rule will change imperceptibly. No one is unchanging. So, forget it this time. Then let the police deal with him. Peter flew up to the sky with an expressionless face, looking down at everyone, including Gwen. If the law you believe in does not give the criminal the punishment he deserves, will you regret stopping me today? If he comes out to hurt people again, can you bear the corresponding responsibility? Gwen was unsure. Facing such a person with a strong aura and super strength, no one could remain calm in front of him. But she firmly believed that Green Goblin would definitely get the punishment he deserved. The court would definitely sentence him to death. Gwen couldn't help but sigh when she thought of this. It would be great if all men in the world were like Peter. He is gentle, kind, not aggressive, and he will definitely stand firmly on his side. Bang! The sonic boom sounded, and the Punisher disappeared on the spot. Gwen suddenly felt the pressure drop and let out a long breath. Not only Gwen, almost everyone gave the same reaction. The Punisher's oppression is really too strong. After Peter left, everyone's attention was on Green Goblin. Look at this street. Look at the shops around. Green Goblin's dozen bombs turned all the beautiful things into dust. George, who had just arrived at the scene, was also relieved. Fortunately, the Punisher did not kill Green Goblin. Such a serious thing happened, he couldn't take two bodies back to report. George stepped forward. He took off the terrifying mask of Green Goblin. The surrounding reporters took pictures frantically as soon as they saw it. George was stunned. The reporter who took the photo was also stunned. Gwen was also stunned. No one thought that he was behind the mask. The boss of a listed company, a famous nanotechnology scientist. Norman Osborn. Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock. This is a normal school day for Midtown Tech High School. But Peter and Gwen did not appear on campus. In a taxi. The two leaned against each other. Queens was far away from the court where Green Goblin was being tried. Because they got up early, they could only catch up on sleep in the car. Suddenly Peter woke up because the mechanical sound of the system rang in his ears. You have completed the task and saved Gwen. Reward points of 20,000 points. Hidden score is turned on. Past tragic experiences are not a reason for a person to embark on a criminal path. Revenge, killing the one who once persecuted you, this is a hero. Bullying, humiliating those innocent ordinary people, you are a criminal. Because you experienced extreme despair before Vulture died, the evaluation score is 2000, which can be converted into a special skill. Convert or not. Convert. Peter chose to gamble without hesitation. Mainly curious about what this special ability is. You have obtained a special skill, changing clothes. Next time you change your identity, you don't need to find the nearest bathroom. As long as you are in a place where no one can see you, you can complete the change with just a thought. Peter didn't react much. He thought he could open the spell. But it's better to have this skill than not. What really makes Peter happy is that the exchange points have accumulated to 60,000. From this point of view, it seems that the exchange of Homelander template is not far away. To be honest, Peter is very strong now, but not that strong. While Gwen was sleeping, he made a simple calculation in his mind. First of all, his super speed comes from the rabbit spell, which is his permanent ability. The power comes from the bull spell, and the bull spell has less than 2 months left. The bull spell not only provides him with power, but also enhances his physical strength. The effect of force is mutual. If it is not enhanced, with his ordinary physical fitness, it is impossible to smash a wall with one punch. Similarly, endurance and cardiopulmonary function have also been greatly enhanced. Otherwise, he would not be able to run so far. Then there is flight ability, which is nothing to say, and comes from flight potion. Finally, there are Yan Shuangying's various amazing skills. Very strong, but not that strong. So the Homelander template must be exchanged, at least at that level. The physical fitness belongs to the category of Superman. A few days ago, when Peter was dragging Vulture flight, he felt uncomfortable when he encountered high altitude and hypoxia. The main reason is because of insufficient physical fitness. Peter couldn't help but sigh. The road is long and difficult. At present, there are still many shortcomings, such as mental attacks. Although he is very fast, if he needs Professor Charles Mutant, he will probably have to give up. At this time, the taxi bumped and woke Gwen up. Peter, why didn't you take a good rest? I was woken up by someone snoring. Gwen was stunned and elbowed Peter. I don't snore. The reason why the two were able to visit this trial was thanks to Gwen's father. Relying on his relationship, the two were able to enter the Supreme Court. I believe Osborn will get the punishment he deserves. He killed so many innocent people, and he will definitely be sentenced to death. Gwen said bitterly. I can't believe that the boss of a big company is such a person. I met him before and thought he was a gentleman. Peter shook his head and gave a different opinion. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Osborn's company has created a lot of economic development in New York. The presidential campaign requires a lot of financial support, and Osborn is the financial sponsor of these politicians. In short, I feel that this trial may be beyond our expectations. Gwen's eyes widened. Peter, do you think so too? Also, who else thinks so? Nothing. Gwen never thought that Peter would have the same opinion as the Punisher. This shook her original idea a little. No. It won't be like this. Just wait and see, Peter. I bet Green Goblin will get the punishment he deserves. If you lose, have lunch with me. I know a good restaurant. Peter raised his eyebrows. Do you want to bet? Okay. If I win, I will invite beautiful Miss Gwen to lunch. The taxi arrived at the destination soon. Entering the court, the trial started soon. The whole court was full of people, and you really couldn't get in without some connections. But this is also common sense. It is human nature to eat melons, and Norman Osborn is one of the most famous entrepreneurs in America. Silence. Court. After the court procedure was completed, the judge in a suit looked at Osborn in the defendant's seat. Mr. Osborn, there are many accusations against you, including that you bombed many universities and high schools in New York, causing heavy casualties, harming citizens, and causing social panic. Do you have any doubts about this? Norman Osborn was wearing a wrinkled suit, looking listless and messy-haired. He looked like he hadn't slept for many days. His eyes were extremely tired, like an old man. Based on his current appearance, no one would believe that he was the Green Goblin who was wreaking havoc and killing people in the city. Facing the judge's question, Osborn did not answer. Instead, the lawyer in front of him stood up. The lawyer in a high-end suit gave people an elite feeling. Mr. Judge, my client has a document to hand in. The lawyer handed over a document with an official seal. My client, Mr. Norman Osborn, has been diagnosed with severe schizophrenia after the hospital's appraisal. Everything was done by another personality, not Mr. Osborn's subjective will. He doesn't even know what happened. As soon as this was said, the court was in an uproar. Everyone was talking about it. The families of the murdered students cried and loudly accused Osborn of being a liar. Even Gwen found it incredible. How can it be like this? She had a bad idea in her mind. Ignoring the noise at the scene, the lawyer raised his voice by 8 degrees and continued. In fact, Mr. Osborn is not only not a bad person, but a philanthropist. He founded a school, devoted himself to scientific research, and created a large number of jobs across the United States. He is a respectable person. These days, he has also been tortured and persecuted by another personality. At the same time, my client is also a vegetarian, a plant protector, has gender identity disorder, and a transvestite. The lawyer pressed more than a dozen buffs on Osborn. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. A question mark appeared in the minds of everyone in the audience. However, the trial that made everyone feel even more incredible came. The judge picked up the gavel and hammered it, making the noisy court silent. Given the hospital's proof, this court declares Norman Osborn not guilty, but based on the fact that Mr. Osborn's other personality was rebellious. He can only be treated and detained in a medical institution for the rest of his life. At this point, the trial ended. Everyone who was watching the trial was dumbfounded. How could it be like this? This is unfair, he is the murderer of my child. The families of the students who suffered cried and shouted. Obviously, the result of this trial did not meet their expectations. Such an executioner with blood on his hands was released just like that. However, no one cared about their shouting. Why is this happening? Gwen, with blonde hair, was confused at the moment, and she once again remembered what the Punisher said. Peter, why is this happening? Green Goblin killed so many people and destroyed so many families, why doesn't the law sentence him to death? Sentencing him to a medical institution, isn't that equivalent to no punishment? This verdict basically means that Osborn will go in to live out his retirement. Peter hugged the girl beside him and let her head rest on his shoulder. Gwen, many times, reality is not as beautiful as described in textbooks. Osborn is the leader of a large company, with many interests connected. His death is not in the interests of those behind him. Gwen was a little indignant, especially after seeing the victim's family crying. The values she had shaped for 18 years have already shown signs of collapse. Peter sighed. I understand your feelings, Gwen. But we can't do anything about this kind of thing, right? Gwen didn't say anything else. She is different from ordinary people, she is Spider-Man. When the Punisher wanted to kill Green Goblin a few days ago, she stood up to stop him and said that we should believe in the law and the police. But now, such a heinous guy has received such a painless punishment. It's a joke. Gwen couldn't accept it in her heart, and even regretted it a little. The Punisher's words seemed to still ring in her ears. If the law you believe in does not give the criminal the punishment he deserves, will you regret stopping me today? If he comes out to hurt people again, can you bear the corresponding responsibility? Gwen was confused. Just as the Punisher said, if Green Goblin comes out to hurt people again, undoubtedly, she has to bear part of the responsibility. Peter, do you think Spider-Woman did something wrong? Peter shook his head and said, don't punish yourself for other people's mistakes, you just do what you think is right. What happens to Green Goblin in the future has nothing to do with you. However, there is a saying that is indeed correct. If the bad guys are not eliminated, the good guys will suffer. After listening to Peter's words, Gwen felt much better. Thank you, Peter. Gwen lay in Peter's arms, like a docile little kitten. Peter was thinking about another thing in his heart. Now he began to hesitate again about whether to kill Osborn. 20,000 points are indeed very attractive, but Peter didn't know what choice to make for a while. When he was young, he went to Osborn's house. The other party had no airs of a rich and successful person. He was willing to turn down meetings to play with Harry and Peter. He was an impeccable good man. And Green Goblin was an out-and-out criminal. It was like a combination of Nightingale and Seidler. One was good to death, and the other was bad. Sure enough, I still couldn't hesitate. If I had ignored Gwen's obstruction a few days ago and shot Green Goblin, then he wouldn't be as entangled as he is now. At this time, the system's voice sounded again. Long-term mission, Gwen's transformation, and phased goals have been achieved. Long-term mission, Gwen's transformation, and phased goals have been achieved. You have acquired a special skill, toxicity reduction. Any chemical reagent that is toxic enough to kill you will have no effect on you. And the toxicity can be displayed in front of you. If you eat highly toxic food, your poison resistance will be improved. Peter was slightly stunned. There is such a reward. He immediately pulled Gwen to find a Chinese restaurant and asked the waiter for a raw bean. He took a bite. The system's voice sounded in his ears. Poison resistance +1. Feeling comfortable, Peter's curiosity was completely satisfied. Although this skill is a bit useless, it is still better to have it than not. Peter, when did you become interested in Chinese food? Gwen asked absent-mindedly, and at this moment, all she could think about was Green Goblin. I've always liked it. After high school, we can go to the east together. There are so many delicious foods there. After staying there for a while, I believe you will never want to eat white food again. The Parker family's eating habits have changed a lot over the years. For example, in a week, they have to eat Chinese food at least 4 days. There are even some foods that are not common in America, such as spicy hot pot, barbecue, dumplings, etc. At first, it was just to take care of Peter's diet, and in the end, the whole family liked Chinese food. Okay Gwen, don't worry about Green Goblin. It's best if Osborn is locked up for life. If he dares to come out and do bad things again, Spider-Woman will definitely stop him. Gwen's eyes lit up. You're right, Peter. If Green Goblin dares to do evil again next time, I bet Spider-Woman will never let him go easily. The two chatted and ate. Suddenly, someone shouted in the restaurant. Oh my god. Someone is going to jump off the building. Everyone went out after hearing the news, and Peter and Gwen also went out. On the roof of a tall building, a middle-aged black man wearing glasses was about to jump down. If he took another step forward, he would fall from the building and break into pieces. The man's name was Max Dillon, and like the deceased Vulture, he was an electrical engineer. A single parent, neglected childhood made him sensitive, suspicious, irritable, and at the same time, he was very inferior. At work, he had no friends. In love, he was alone. In family affection, both his parents died. Such a tragic life made him see no hope. He worked at Osborn Company and had a good salary, but with the exposure of Norman Osborn being the Green Goblin, the company had a major reshuffle. A leader who usually disliked him became his immediate superior. This made him very depressed at work every day. I wanted to die every day at work. Today, at the moment, after finishing his last lunch, he was going to look for his deceased mother. Meanwhile, under the building. Oh, Peter, I seem to have eaten something bad. I need to go to the bathroom. Go quickly. Peter saw through Gwen's thoughts at a glance, but did not stop him. 2 minutes later. Just as Max was about to jump off the building, a voice called him from behind. Hey, man, what's wrong with you? Want to jump off the building? What are you thinking? There are so many good things in the world that you haven't experienced, so why are you so anxious to leave? Be positive about life. Even if you jump, I will use Cobweb to rescue you. Spider-Woman's voice sounded like heavenly music in Max's ears. The more inferior people are, the more they desire to be noticed. Max has wanted to be valued by others since he was a child. Who is the person standing in front of him now? It's Spider-Woman. It's the superhero that is often broadcast on TV. Max is extremely excited at this moment. The idea of committing suicide has disappeared. It's not that no one cares about him. A big shot like Spider-Woman would care about his life or death. Can you sign an autograph for me? Max said excitedly. Definitely. Gwen wrote Spider-Woman's name on the first page of Max's diary in a graceful handwriting. Live well, buddy. I still have to save the world. I won't chat with you anymore. I hope you can live more actively next time I see you. After that, Spider-Woman launched the cobweb and swung away. Max was left excited and shouted at her. Spider-Woman, I will be your fan from now on. Max was happy from the bottom of his heart. It feels so good to be valued, especially when the other party is a famous big shot. This made him find the meaning of life at once. After a while, Gwen appeared beside Peter. That's strange. Maybe I'm not used to Chinese food. Peter. Miss Gwen, please don't blame the Chinese food for your upset stomach. Hee. There's still a lot of food left. Let's continue eating. Since becoming a superhero, Gwen's appetite has been surprisingly large. But her figure hasn't changed much. She's even more symmetrical than before. In the sanatorium, Norman Osborn was repeatedly imprisoned in a single-family courtyard. It is located in the suburbs of New York City, with pleasant scenery, food and wine. Rather than being imprisoned, it is better to say that he is on vacation. But this vacation is not free. Osborn sat in the bedroom, which was empty and there was not even a bed. There was only a mirror of the same height. Osborn sat cross-legged on the floor, looking at himself in the mirror. Old, haggard, tortured beyond recognition. He has been shrouded in the shadow of a family genetic disease since he was a child. Fear always looms in his heart. When he was a teenager, he witnessed his father's death with his own eyes. This is the inner demon he cannot overcome. Every day, every year older, the inner demon becomes more serious. Even if he becomes an expert in the field of biology, it is still difficult to cure his stubborn illness. The inner demon has completely become another personality of Norman Osborn. Green Goblin. What are you thinking? What's there to be depressed about? We are not dead yet. As long as we are alive, we can definitely heal ourselves. The Green Goblin in the mirror has a hideous face. A pair of eyes are hidden in the shadows. No, don't try to control me. The haggard Osborn talked to him, his eyes full of bloodshot. You just want to use me to do evil. Once I cure the disease, the first to die will be you. The Green Goblin shouted angrily. Then you just wait to die. Feel the aging of your body bit by bit. Look at Osborn Company, everything you created is plundered by others. It won't be long before your son will follow the same path as you. Osborn, now the opportunity is in front of us, what are you still hesitating about? You. What else is there to hesitate about? The Green Goblin's voice is impassioned, as if it has the power to bewitch people. As long as we can get Spider-Woman's serum, we will be healthy. Think of that picture, the elderly Osborn lying in bed, next to Harry's son, your grandson, no one will die of disease. Bang! Osborn suddenly jumped up and hit his head on the glass. With a bang, the glass flew, and the broken glass like a spider web reflected Osborn's shattered face. Blood flowed along the cracks of the broken glass. His expression gradually overlapped with his own expression in the mirror. You're right. Spider-Woman, I will definitely catch you. She was stopped by the Punisher this time, she won't be so lucky next time, just choose the right time. Choose a time when the Punisher is not here. Green Goblin Osborne laughed wildly. Sharp and terrifying. On the other side, Peter went home from school. He was going to deal with something he had forgotten for a long time. He put on gloves and took out brand new banknotes from his bank card. 10 dark green $100 bills with Franklin's name printed on them. Peter found a place without surveillance, changed his clothes in a second, and became the Punisher feared by all criminals in New York. Before, criminals always thought that Gotham's Batman was a madman and violent maniac, until the Punisher appeared. They knew how good Batman was. Peter took out his mobile phone and took a look at the spider locator. He was going to talk to Otto's wife Rose. To be honest, this scientist and his wife are both pretty good people. His lifelong pursuit is not for fame and fortune, but just to contribute to all mankind. The last time they met, Otto and Rose taught Peter how to chase girls. Even if there is no systematic task, Peter doesn't want to see one of them die and the other go on the road of crime. At this moment, London, England. Dark clouds covered the sky, and it would rain from time to time, and the air was quite humid. Here, you can't even see a few days of complete sunshine throughout the year. A man who looked quite sloppy kept looking outside the station. Just yesterday, he set his sights on a woman who looked to be in her 30s or 40s, well-maintained, and seemed to have encountered some difficulties. In short, none of this mattered. What mattered was that he planned to marry that woman tonight. And then sell her. Time passed by minute, and Rose walked out of the restaurant. She had been worried for the past few days. Since Otto's experiment failed, she had contacted him countless times, but received no news. And the Punisher. Rose checked the internet, and every piece of information about him was shocking. Rose didn't understand why such a person would send her to London. Frowning and thinking, she passed by an empty alley unknowingly. Suddenly a black shadow rushed out and threw her directly into the alley. Ah! Rose was startled and shouted, but her mouth was covered. Hey, I've observed you for a day. You are an illegal resident, right? No one will help you. At this moment, Peter appeared. Don't mind your own business. The man pulled out a knife and pointed it at Peter. Peter walked in front of him with a blank expression. He pulled back his hand. With a bang, the man's head was separated from his neck forever. The body stayed where it was, but the head flew far away and hit the wall, leaving a bloodstain. It rolled on the ground twice and stopped moving. Rose was so scared that she couldn't speak. She had never experienced such danger before, and her heart almost jumped out of her stomach. She endured the discomfort of vomiting and looked at the head of the corpse not far away. Finally, she couldn't help it and vomited with a wow. Oh my God. She felt like the sky had fallen on her. She had never thought that so many things would happen in just a few days. After vomiting, find a place to talk. Let's go to my hotel, Punisher. Looking at the burly and tall man in front of her. Rose felt terrified from the bottom of her heart, especially because the other party had just beaten a person's head into a rotten watermelon in front of her. 5 minutes later, the two came to the hotel where Rose was staying. To be honest, what happened just now caught Peter off guard. Originally, he wanted to explain this matter to Rose in his own identity. But who could have thought that in Britain, which is famous for its gentlemen, there would be people doing such dirty crimes in the daytime? It's really disgusting. It seems that there will be a new place to brush points in the future. Rose drank some water, rinsed her mouth, and then asked stiffly. Excuse me, sir, I don't understand why you brought me here. Where is my husband Otto Octavian? I can't contact him. Peter said indifferently. Ms. Rose, there is something you should know better than me. About that mechanical arm. Mechanical arm. Rose's face was full of confusion. The mechanical arm is a tool made by Otto to control the nuclear integrate reaction. It uses the most advanced artificial intelligence technology. In order to control this thing, Otto also specially studied the suppression chip. Otherwise, the artificial intelligence will compete with him for control of the body. Wait. Rose's eyes widened. You mean? Rose didn't finish her words, she didn't dare to imagine. Peter nodded. Yes, during the experiment that day, the suppression chip on Otto's neck was burned. I'm afraid that Otto Octavian has become a slave to the mechanical arm now. Rose took a deep breath. The uneasiness in her eyes was hard to conceal. As Otto's wife, she knows the horror of the mechanical arm better than anyone else. This thing can magnify the dark side of the user's heart. Otto had worn it before when it was still in the experimental stage. This thing actually tempted him to kidnap Osborne in order to get more financial assistance. Because the mechanical arm was not formed at that time, it could be forcibly dismantled with the help of external force. This is also the reason why Otto later developed the suppression chip. But now, 4 mechanical arms, each with a force of several hundred kilograms. Once Otto is controlled by him. Oh my god. Peter stood up, picked up the hat beside him and put it on. This is also the reason why I sent you here. After all, a person controlled by a machine can do anything dangerous. But you can rest assured that I will make Otto return to normal. Rose quickly stood up and thanked sincerely. Thank you, Punisher. But I have another question, why? Why did you save Otto? As far as I know, he doesn't know a friend like you. Don't thank me, I don't know you either. If you have to thank someone, thank Peter. Peter. Rose was stunned again. The kid from Midtown Science and Technology High School. Yes, he asked me to help, otherwise I wouldn't bother to meddle. One more thing. The tall figure wearing the same octagonal hat as the Razor Gang turned around and handed Rose $100 bills. Peter asked me to bring it here, fearing that you would be short of money here. You have completed a new achievement. As soon as he went out, a mechanical sound rang in Peter's ears. You have completed the achievement, killing like a spit. Killing like a spit 100/100ths. The executioner with blood on his hands is not necessarily a bad person, and killing is also to save people. You have received an achievement reward, please choose your reward from the following 3 options. Obtain 20,000 points. Obtain the right to use the Bull Talisman permanently. Obtain Observation Hockey. Observation Hockey. As an anime fan in his previous life, Peter was not unfamiliar with this term. Perception attack, perception of the number of enemies, prediction of enemy moves in a short period of time, perception of the opponent's strength. But this ability is highly overlapped with Peter's spider telepathy. Moreover, once this ability is exchanged, the Bull Talisman will be missed. Now the Bull Talisman is the main source of Peter's power. So he chose the Bull Talisman without hesitation. At the moment of choice, the Bull Talisman turned into white light and poured into Peter's body. Long-term task, collection of zodiac signs, I have nothing missing 2/12. Peter was relieved, seeing that the 3-month time was getting closer and closer. He was still worried about what to do when the Bull Talisman expired. Now it's good, the power of the Bull Talisman belongs to him. Suddenly Peter seemed to think of something. Opened the Points Mall. Click the search bar and enter the zodiac sign talisman. Sure enough, the choice appeared. He was overjoyed. If you can buy a spell, it seems that you don't need to change the Homelander template. However, he was severely poured cold water the next second. You can spend 10,000 points to exchange for the rat spell. Note: the exchange of zodiac spells must be carried out in order, excluding the spells you already have. It takes 10,000 points to exchange for the rat spell, 100,000 points to exchange for the tiger spell, and 1,000,000 points to exchange for the dragon spell. The source of the zodiac is likely to appear in the rewards of the main task, and it is not recommended to exchange with points. Peter. Gone. Back to New York, boring. The next second, his figure disappeared from the spot. In a hospital in Queens, New York. A doctor in a white coat and a mask did not enter the operating room with a scalpel as usual. This time he used an electric saw. The patient, Otto Octavian, had been hit in the head by a heavy object and had been in a coma. Because he was wearing 4 huge mechanical arms, he could not be scanned and tested. So the most urgent thing was to saw off the thing. Otherwise, there would be no test, let alone surgery. Entering the operating room, the doctor looked at the tentacles and joked to his colleagues. Has anyone sawed wood? The doctor started the electric saw and was about to cut the mechanical arm in front of him. Suddenly, a tentacle suddenly pulled out and directly pulled the doctor into the wall. Others in the operating room had no time to react. The tentacles had already started killing. Each tentacle seemed to be alive, stirring up chaos in the operating room. They did not stop until everyone died. After a while, Otto slowly woke up. Looking at the 4 or 5 corpses around him, he was shocked. In a panic, he left the hospital and found a remote, abandoned dock. Otto looked at the ruined things in front of him, his eyes empty and lifeless. Is my beloved Rose dead? My dream is shattered. He turned his head to look at the tentacles beside him. These terrible things should be destroyed and buried with me in the sea. Suddenly, a tentacle opened its claws, as if threatened, and emitted a slight sound wave in Otto's ears. Otto was stunned. A voice appeared in his mind, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He was familiar with this feeling. When he was developing the mechanical arm, this thing with artificial intelligence had snatched control of his body from him. Reaching out to touch the suppression chip at the back of his neck. It has disappeared. Otto, let's start over. The voice in his head sounded. No. Peter is right, I miscalculated the data. Otto's eyes dimmed, but the next second his eyes changed drastically. I can't have miscalculated. Didn't the nuclear integrate succeed? Otto's voice was a little crazy. Let's start over and increase the shield. Let this experiment be bigger and stronger than the last one. Suddenly Otto's voice became low again. But we need money. The nuclear integrate experiment requires tritium, and this rare element is extremely expensive. Go rob a bank, Otto. The voice in his head sounded again. Otto refused immediately. No, I can't commit a crime. It's a crime not to fulfill your dream. You have to use your invention to benefit all mankind, and they will understand you. Otto's Adam's apple rolled. You are right, it's a crime not to fulfill your dream. I will succeed. The energy of the sun is in my palm. At this moment, Otto completely transformed into Dr. Octopus. Gwen, you looked a little absent-minded just now. In a commercial district not far from Midtown Tech High School. In a dessert shop, several girls gathered together. Mary Jane, whose hair was a little red, took a bite of yogurt pudding and was surprised by Gwen's reaction just now. Several people formed a band at school. Gwen was the drummer. She had never made mistakes before, but she just typed several syllables wrong. Sorry, I'm not in a good state recently. Gwen shrugged her shoulders. There were far more crimes in New York than she had imagined. For more than a month, Gwen had transformed into Spider-Woman almost every night to punish crimes in the city. But there was no way to punish them all. Car thieves, drug addicts, thefts, robberies. Too many. This made her feel physically and mentally exhausted. Maybe she really needed a good rest. At this moment, Gwen suddenly perked up. This is spider telepathy. The next second, huge amounts of noise came from not far outside the dessert shop. Everyone's attention was attracted. A man wearing sunglasses and with 4 mechanical arms was robbing a bank. The tentacles grabbed the wall of the bank, and then pulled it hard, and a big hole immediately appeared in the reinforced concrete wall. In front of the metal tentacles, the wall was as fragile as paper. Why are there so many monsters recently? Gwen felt a headache for a while. But now it's time for Spider-Woman to come out and solve this danger. She picked up her school bag and rushed out. Before leaving, she didn't forget to remind her friends to leave as soon as possible. Dr. Octopus put bags of banknotes into his pocket. Gwen, who had changed her clothes, suddenly appeared and kicked Dr. Octopus with cobweb. At the same time, the tentacles also grabbed Gwen and threw her out directly. Dr. Octopus's expression was angry, and his eyes were full of resentment. The tentacles stretched out long and chased Gwen again and again. Gwen did not forget to fight back while dodging, but the power of cobweb was much weaker than that of tentacles. Gwen remembered the tricks that Punisher taught her before, and fired cobweb, sticking a safe, and smashed it towards Dr. Octopus. In the battle with Dr. Octopus, Gwen accidentally glanced and saw Peter in the crowd. Wong Defa. She couldn't help but swear. A large amount of cobwebs came out from her wrists, sealing Dr. Octopus' eyes. Gwen quickly jumped to Peter's side. She was almost crying. Peter, get out of here quickly. Too dangerous. In Gwen's opinion, the relationship with Peter is not as simple as friends. As a woman with normal physical and psychological development, she often fantasizes about her future life. Peter may become a scientist in the future, and she is a well-behaved and sensible wife. Thinking about the future married life will be warm and sweet. So she pays special attention to Peter. Don't worry, Spider-Woman, Otto and I are friends. Dr. Octopus tore open the spider web that blocked his vision. He looked at Spider-Woman angrily. At the same time, he also noticed Peter beside her. At this moment, his eyes were a little clearer. Peter. Otto, stop it. Is this what you call benefiting mankind? You are committing a crime. You have gone against your original intention. With a bang, the bag full of banknotes fell to the ground. Otto turned around and looked at the messy bank on the ground, and the fearful eyes of people not far away. Oh my God, Peter, what have I done? Suddenly, the voice in his head rang again. Don't worry about him. How can a high school student understand your pursuit of science? With this money, we can realize our dreams. Wake up. Otto Octavian, you are a scientist, not a criminal. The reason why Peter did not transform into a punisher and solve this matter with violence. It is because the anger in his body can no longer be suppressed. This is the disadvantage of villain superheroes. After killing a large number of people, he has lost his reverence for life. To resolve the anger, he can only kill people. Peter had a hunch that as long as he used violent means, he would beat Otto to death. Otto frowned, and the voice in his head kept saying one sentence after another. He couldn't control the mechanical arms on his body. They were too powerful. Peter, get out of here. He's crazy. Which normal person would rob a bank? Gwen was so anxious. Peter was just an ordinary person. Once this monster with 6 hands came over. It was difficult for Gwen to fight him and protect Peter at the same time. Peter. I can succeed. The last nuclear integrate experiment was successful. With a little modification, I can change the world. There will be no war in the whole United States and the whole world. There is enough energy. Otto opened his arms, and his 4 mechanical arms also opened. At this moment, he looked like a god who created the world. But what he did was no different from the devil. Otto, we can take it slowly. Tesla also experienced countless failures before inventing the light bulb. What's the difference between what you are doing now and robbery? Think about Rose, think about your wife. She won't want to see you do this. Peter's voice was loud, and Otto showed a look of astonishment after hearing this. Rose is not dead. She is definitely not dead. One of my friends sent her to a safe place. Why don't you let her come to see me? Otto's voice was low. But judging from the almost crazy waving of the mechanical tentacles. At this moment, he was still controlling this body. With a bang, Otto jumped directly from the 2nd floor and jumped directly in front of Peter. Rose is still alive, Peter, Rose is still alive. Why doesn't she come to see me? Otto's voice was very calm, but Gwen remained vigilant. This kind of peace is like a huge reef hidden under the sea, which can bring danger to passing ships at any time. Peter's voice was calm from beginning to end. Otto, look at you now. Are you a respected scientist or a monster controlled by a machine? Do you think Rose wants to see you like this? The mechanical tentacles were still whispering beside Otto. Stop talking. Otto's tone was low, but the tentacles were still brainwashing him. I said. Stop talking. Otto clenched his teeth, and at this moment he regained control of his body. Help me, Peter, I can't control it for too long. Don't worry, Otto. The next second, Peter frowned and looked to the side. Spider telepathy. A bullet was fired from the gun in the hand of a policeman not far away, and the target he wanted to kill was Otto. Bang. The reaction of the artificial intelligence tentacles is undoubtedly faster. It blocked the bullet instantly, and stretched out its arms to press the shooting policeman to death on the ground and turned him into a pool of meat paste. It's not unfair. Peter hates this kind of brainless guy the most. He has already stabilized Otto's emotions. This is clearly provoking him. Quick, get out of here. Peter took Gwen's hand and ran. He didn't think this new superhero could deal with Dr. Octopus. No, Peter, I have to stop him. Get out of here, and protect yourself. Gwen fired a cobweb at Rage's Dr. Octopus. It's impossible not to be violent. Thanks for watching.